Hi guys, and welcome to Finance Friday. Just a heads up, the first part of this video is going to be talking about administrative stuff for about a minute. So if you're not too keen on that, check in the description below for when the actual Finance Friday for today starts. First thing, big shout out to everyone who subscribed, liked, and suggested my videos to friends and the like. I appreciate your support. In the same boat, I want to give a big shout out to everyone who's continued the conversation after the videos. Your conversations and your feedback actually assists me in better shaping Finance Fridays. Second thing I want to talk about is how I'm going to broaden now what I talk about to not necessarily Zimbabwe specific examples, because more than half of the people watching are actually not in Zim. The third thing I want to talk about is how most of my videos are not watched to completion regardless of length. So what I may suggest is that you watch it at 2 times the speed. I promise I still sound the same, maybe even better. Or maybe create some time for you to watch it. In any event, I do not intend to make a video that's longer than 10 minutes for Finance Fridays. All right, let's get into today's video. I've tried to aggregate some themes and some questions I've been receiving up to and as late as today based on the last video that I shared, and to give a quick response on those. But I think it's quite clear that we may need to have a whole personal financial management series and actually fully develop that. I'm still trying to work out the logistics around that, but then here we go. The theme or question around if I have small sums of money, or maybe I'm not really interested in being a very wealthy person. In any event, there's nothing like a small amount of money, because there is a lot of power in compounding. So if you invest $1 today at 7%, it keeps growing at 7%, then it's $1.07, and the progression goes on. So you still need to be investing or saving in that regard. It also pays a lot for you to have a financial plan, because it helps you institute some discipline, and it could actually increase your options in terms of how you express yourself. Because after all, money is probably one of the primary tools we use to express ourselves. So along that, there were questions around, okay, fine, I have a financial goal, I have a financial plan, but how do I actually get to follow it? Right? And my mother has a few tricks. Yeah, I'm sharing tricks from my mother. My mother has a few tricks into how you can force yourself to be financially disciplined. I think the one that was most interesting to me was a self-tax one, where she has arranged that whenever she spends X amount of money, a certain percentage is immediately deducted and put in a separate fund. So I think you can talk to your bank so that every time you transact, that actually happens. You also have other tricks, like literally using what we'll call mental accounting, which is also something we talk about in the more formal sectors, where you actually have buckets or pots or tins, where you say every month I put so much into that tin, that tin, and that tin, and each tin represents a financial goal. So that would probably also assist you in enhancing your financial discipline. But I tend to find that once you've got defined goals and you really want to get to them, it should be easy to follow through. There's something that's critical around how people access financing and personal credit and credit ratings. I think this then becomes more important when you want to look at probably funding something that is out of the ordinary, maybe a holiday, maybe you want to start a side hustle or a business. So I think the general idea is you need to invest in building a credit profile, right? What I mean by that is sometimes you may actually be able to buy something cash, but it will not cause you any harm if you take on a loan to buy it over 3 months, so that people see that you can actually perform, right? It can be your clothes account or something of the sort. That way you start building a credit rating. It also pays if you are never late on your phone bill, electricity bill, water bill, and the like, so that people know that you honor your financial obligations. So you then build a credit rating such that when you actually need to access some money, you're able to do that. We talked about side hustles a bit in the last video, and I said that it should be something that is ideally separated from your day job, or separated from yourself and what you actually do. That way you diversify your income streams. So what actually makes sense as a general philosophy, I think a side hustle is something where you probably have access to the means of production, or you're owning the means of production. And if you cannot do that in entirety, then you can get a piece of that. For instance, having a stock portfolio is owning a company which is supposedly controlling or owning means of production. and that way you get that associated benefit, and it is independent of yourself. I know in Zim specifically, there is an opportunity around retailing where you take margin. It'll be great if you can have that whole operation running independent of yourself. But if you can really get into a space where you're making something or you are leasing out equipment or the like, then that would be great. So maybe that could actually be your ambition when you're thinking about a side hustle. So think independent of yourself, think means of production. Right. And then associated with the borrowing and the side hustle is okay, fine, I have a side hustle in mind. I want to borrow. How do I write a business proposal? I would say at a personal level, maybe do not worry too much about the actual proposal, but have clarity around what it is you want to do, your competition, probably an indication of the numbers of how much you'd need to invest, how much you'd make, and then if you're clear around that, and if you're clear around the bigger picture of where you're going to start and where you're going to go, most financial institutions would be able to actually help you develop a business plan, right? You talk to a personal banker, you talk to anyone in the bank, they should be able to help you actually then put that into a framework that makes sense financially. But remember, people in financial services, we're not necessarily creating the ideas. We're just then packaging those ideas for investment. So your primary objective is to actually just iron out the idea and make it make sense. And then once that makes sense, it should find money one way or another. And then there was something interesting around how do I become emotionless around money? I actually do not believe that you should be emotionless around money. I think there's a lot of information that comes in based on your emotions. Remember, we talked about knowing yourself and knowing whether you're someone who has a large risk appetite or a smaller risk appetite. Are you someone who wants to be a provider? Do you respond emotionally to that or not? Your emotions contain a lot of information which you should take in, and then we actually can then start saying, all right, fine, how do we take the information from these emotions and translate them into a financial strategy? So for instance, if you're not really happy to be taking on a lot of risk because you're generally not settled around risky environments, we're taking that information and then we then use it to create a low risk portfolio or go into lower risk investments, or probably maybe even have a lot more mitigation around risk. So the goal is not to be emotionless around money. The goal is to understand your emotions, whether you're significantly loss averse, or whether you will take the next 3 years regretting a mistake you made whenever you made it. And then we actually then incorporate that into a more meaningful strategy around how you invest your money. So yeah, I think I've tried to bundle a lot of these themes, but the higher level is we should be looking at some form of personal financial management series. I will let you know how that goes in the coming weeks. All right, then. Thanks.